Here we go. I am so ready for this. I'm Joe.
I'm Sunny.
And let's just jump right in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. Welcome, Sip and Talkers, to another deep dive.
Yeah, and today's topic is, honestly, it's a wild one.
Oh, it really is. It's something we're calling the missing defense screw.
Right.
Because lately, there is this fascinating, well, honestly, it's a logical paradox happening right now in Taiwanese politics. And, I mean, as an American looking at this, my logical processing systems are nearly crashing.
I mean, same here. It's a masterclass in conflicting policy signals. But let's lay out the baseline facts objectively for you listening.
Let's do.
So right now in Taiwan's legislature, certain political parties, specifically the KMT and the TPP, are taking this incredibly hardline stance. They are actively blocking, or at least heavily freezing, critical defense budgets.
Right, and specifically the budgets for advanced arms purchases.
Exactly. And the core argument they're putting out there to the public is, they're saying that buying these advanced weapons provokes the other side, and that true peace relies primarily on dialogue.
Which, to be fair, in international relations theory, that is a recognized strategy. It's called strategic contraction, or building a peace narrative. The whole academic premise is that if you intentionally freeze or lower your military hardware acquisition, you de-escalate the room.
Yeah.
You remove the perceived threat, and supposedly the adversary lowers their weapons too.
Well, let me stop you right there, because I really have to push back on that premise.
Go for it.
Because anyone who has studied the security dilemma knows that when one state buys a bunch of weapons, even if it's purely for defense, the neighboring state naturally gets spooked. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So they buy their own weapons, and suddenly you're in this crazy arms race spiral. So isn't there a genuinely valid argument that avoiding that spiral by pausing weapons purchases makes sense? Like, how do they reconcile that?
So that is exactly the counter-argument, and on paper, it makes perfect sense. And this is a massive, but it only makes sense if you are pursuing a strategy of total neutrality or demilitarization.
Oh, right.
And here is the logical loophole. The big bug in the system, they are absolutely not demilitarizing.
Not at all.
Right, because you have to look at the other side of the coin. According to nearly every poll, the vast majority of Taiwanese citizens agree that self-defense is strictly necessary. It's 100% needed.
Yeah.
And these exact same politicians support the mandatory military draft for young men.
Which is just, it's mind-boggling.
It is. You cannot logically claim that a country is safe enough to defund its defense hardware, but simultaneously in enough danger that you must legally force every young guy to go prepare for combat.
Exactly. And that brings us to how modern warfare actually operates.
Yeah.
Because we are not, fighting in World War I trenches where sheer manpower just wins the day.
No, absolutely not.
Anyone analyzing global security knows modern conflict is entirely defined by the technological generation gap.
Oh, 100%.
Deterrence relies heavily on something called, wait, let me make sure I get the terminology right here. It's asymmetrical anti-access, A2AD, anti-access area denial.
Exactly right. A2AD. And for you listening, just think of A2AD as creating this highly lethal, high-tech bubble around your territory.
What? An invisible wall.
Exactly. You use autonomous drone swarms, precision-guided anti-ship missiles, automated cyber defense shields. The whole point is that enemy ships and planes simply cannot get close to your shores without facing devastating losses.
So if a state deliberately strips away that high-tech wall, they slash the budget for the drones and the missiles, but they still draft their citizens, what is the actual strategy there?
That is the soul-searching question. Who are they actually protecting?
Right, because you are essentially asking ordinary young men, college students, tech engineers, to fill this massive high-tech defense vacuum with their literal physical bodies.
Which is a complete violation of the social contract. I mean, if we look at this, it creates a severe class and moral contradiction. You have these political elites sitting comfortably in air-conditioned legislative rooms, right? Discussing political compromises, cutting the budgets for the top-tier protective gear.
Yeah, just making deals.
Exactly. And meanwhile, you have these young tech engineers and the kids of everyday families who are going to be sent to the front lines with inferior equipment.
It reduces the sons of ordinary citizens to cheap political bargaining chips. It's insane.
It really is. And since we're looking at this through an American lens, we spend so much time analyzing the tech sector, right? I think the clearest way to view this paradox is through the relationship between hardware and software.
Oh, man. It's so messy. Honestly, this whole dynamic, it reminds me of a chaotic startup manager I used to know back in Silicon Valley.
Oh, I love a good startup metaphor. Walk us through it.
Okay, so picture this erratic manager, right? Jumping on a desk, demanding absolute loyalty from the engineering team. He's yelling, "We're a family. You need to work 80-hour weeks. Share the burden. Give me your blood, sweat, and tears."
Right, representing the military draft. Total human sacrifice.
Exactly. So he demands all this loyalty, but then those same engineers go to him and say, "Hey, we are handling incredibly sensitive data here. We need a basic cybersecurity budget. We need enterprise-level antivirus software and secure servers."
Makes total sense.
Right. But the manager just shakes his head, cuts the budget, and says, "No, that's too expensive. Plus, installing firewalls might provoke the hackers."
Oh my gosh, provoke the hackers.
Yeah. He says, "We'll just rely on our corporate culture and we'll just have tea with the hackers."
Any engineer listening to us right now is probably just shuddering because we all know exactly how that story ends.
It leads to a system crash.
Yeah.
A total unrecoverable crash.
Exactly. You simply cannot run top-tier software, which in this geopolitical case is human morale, bravery, and determination on outdated, highly vulnerable hardware.
You just can't.
It doesn't matter how passionate your engineers are. If the server room is completely exposed, you're done. Doing that in a corporate setting is negligence. Doing that with national security, that's an irresponsible gamble.
Yeah, and let's pivot for a second, because this internal logical loophole, it doesn't just stay local.
Right.
It bleeds out, and it severely impacts Taiwan's international standing, what think tanks call their strategic credit.
Oh, definitely.
Let's look at the view from Washington, D.C., for example. The American logic on global security right now is incredibly blunt. You hear this sentiment across the board, and it's a very prominent talking point for political figures like Trump.
Yeah.
The underlying philosophy is super simple. Security isn't free.
It's the concept of the defense insurance premium.
Exactly. But, okay, wait, I have to ask the skeptical question here.
Yeah.
Isn't a large part of the U.S. perspective just a desire to sell more American weapons? Like, isn't the military-industrial complex just looking for a buyer?
I mean, look, the economic factor of arms sales is always present. That's undeniably true. However, you have to look at the domestic political reality in the U.S. right now.
Fair point.
The argument isn't just about corporate profits, it's about political capital. The logic goes like this. If the people being protected are actively refusing to buy the best possible insurance for themselves, why in the world should taxpayers in Ohio or Texas risk their own children's lives to step in?
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
Exactly. When politicians block their own defense upgrades, it looks to the outside world like free riding. It looks like an attempt to transfer the ultimate risk onto your allies, rather than taking responsibility for it yourself.
And if we look right next door, we have to talk about Japan. Because Japan is undertaking the most massive defense shift we've seen since World War II.
Oh, it's huge.
They're actively building what's known as the Southern Shield.
Right. They're fortifying islands like Yonaguni and Ishigaki.
Yeah. Yep.
And just for context for you listening, Yonaguni is only about 110 kilometers away from Taiwan. That's incredibly close. To do this, Japan is overturning decades of strict post-war pacifism.
Yeah, they are taking massive political and economic risks at home to lay down this security infrastructure.
And this brings us to another tech concept, the broken API.
The API, okay, the application programming interface. How does that fit into the geopolitical landscape?
Okay, think of international alliances like an open source tech community.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Japan is out there coding, right?
Yeah.
Building a protective firewall, laying down the physical and diplomatic infrastructure for this massive security network. Meanwhile, the politicians blocking the defense budgets in Taiwan are essentially digging out the foundation of their own server room. So the API, the exact interface where these allied systems are supposed to communicate, share data, and support each other, is broken.
Because the hardware doesn't match up.
Exactly. You simply cannot ask the open source community to jump in and fix all your critical bugs if you absolutely refuse to even pay for your own server's electricity.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I was actually reviewing some data before we started recording today, and the consensus from international think tanks is really alarming.
What are they saying?
Basically, when allies like the U.S. and Japan are ramping up their defense to support a region, and a core player in that region is actively defunding its own advanced tech, it leads to a total collapse of deterrence signals.
Right.
The message it sends to adversaries isn't, oh, look, we want peace. The message it sends is, we lack the resolve to defend ourselves.
Yeah. So how do you explain this grand, somewhat abstract geopolitical theory to someone who doesn't, spend their weekends reading international relations journals?
I think we just need to bring it right down to earth. Let's use a highly relatable, everyday analogy for all our Sip and Talkers out there.
I am all ears.
Imagine you are going on a road trip. You are driving up a steep, treacherous, winding mountain road. Let's say it's the Rockies here in the U.S., or maybe Hiwan Mountain over in Taiwan.
Okay.
There are massive drop-offs, unpredictable weather, and just dangerous terrain.
I'm getting anxious just picturing it, honestly.
So the self-proclaimed captain of your road trip, the person who organized the whole thing, is driving. Before you even head up the mountain, you realize the car's tires are completely bald and the brakes are practically non-existent.
Oh, no.
So everyone in the car says, hey, maybe we should buy new tires and fix the brakes before we tackle this crazy mountain. But the captain absolutely refuses. He claims that buying new tires is a total waste of money. And even worse, he says that equipping the car with good brakes might provoke the mountain bandits who hang out on the pass.
Oh, my goodness. That's hilarious but terrifying. And let me guess, the car inevitably stalls and starts rolling backward toward a cliff, right? And then the captain turns to the youngest, least experienced guy in the back seat and yells, quick, get out and push the car from behind.
Exactly. That is exactly it. And meanwhile, you have these U.S. and Japanese hikers standing on the side of the road, completely geared up, watching this unfold in absolute disbelief.
Right. And the captain is looking at them, fully expecting these strangers to suddenly produce a free tow truck out of thin air.
Yep. But let's talk about the physics of the situation. Flesh and bone against a 2-ton vehicle rolling down a mountain. Physics dictates that the young guy who got out to push is going to be instantly crushed.
It's a dark comedy, really, but it perfectly illustrates the tragic reality of the policy.
It really does.
So next time someone tries to convince you that buying advanced weapons is a waste of resources, but simultaneously insists that the military draft is an absolute duty, I want you to ask them one simple question.
What's the question?
Just look at them and ask, Captain, when the car flips on this mountain, are you going to be the one driving or are you getting out to push with the rest of us?
Oof. That is the million-dollar question, because the answer to that tells you everything you need to know about the power dynamics at play.
It really does.
So let's zoom out here as we wrap up this deep dive. At the end of the day, this entire exploration boils down to 2 words: political honesty.
Ideological consistency?
Right. A political party can absolutely choose to be a hawk. They can advocate for advanced weapons, strong deterrence, and heavy defense spending.
Sure.
Alternatively, they can choose to be a dove. They can advocate for total diplomacy, lowering military postures, and even abolishing the draft entirely.
Both of those are logically sound, valid political philosophies. You see them all over the world.
But here is the unbreakable rule of political physics.
Oh.
You cannot wear a hawk's armor while simultaneously feeding the public dove slogans.
Wow. Yeah.
You cannot demand the ultimate physical sacrifice from your citizens while aggressively denying them the technological tools required to survive that sacrifice.
And, I think it's crucial that we take a second here to explicitly state our position, or rather, our lack thereof.
Good point. Let's make that clear.
We want to be abundantly clear to you listening. We are not taking sides here.
Absolutely not.
We're not criticizing, endorsing, or discriminating against any specific political party, any country, or any particular group of people. We are simply acting as objective observers.
Yeah, just trying to make sense of the logic.
Exactly. Our goal today is just to analyze the underlying illogical structure of these public policies. We want to peel back the rhetoric and look at the actual mechanics of the arguments.
We want to encourage you to practice independent critical thinking. Don't just accept the slogans, right? Look for the API.
Yeah.
Look for the software running on the hardware.
Always look under the hood.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. Something that builds on everything we've discussed today, but looks just a little bit further down the timeline.
Oh, I like where this is going. Hit us with it.
So we've spent this whole time talking about the gap between human bodies and advanced hardware today. But look at where the world is heading.
Yep.
We are rapidly moving into an era of AI-driven, fully automated warfare. We're talking about autonomous drone swarms, algorithmic targeting, systems that operate way faster than human reflexes.
It's science fiction becoming reality.
It is. The technological generation gap is about to become an absolute chasm. So here is the thought to ponder. If a system is already forcing its citizens to rely on their physical bodies to fill the gaps in the hardware today,
what happens to those same citizens tomorrow when the adversary standing across the field isn't human at all but entirely robotic?
Exactly.
That is a chilling thought, but honestly an incredibly necessary one to explore. It really reframes the urgency of this whole software versus hardware debate.
It changes the whole math of the mountain road. But hey, after chewing on automated warfare and geopolitical logic loops, you might need a mental palate cleanser.
I know I do.
If you do, we want to send some love to our good old friend Mickey. He runs an awesome YouTube channel called Mickey to Life.
Oh, yeah. Mickey's the best.
He's a great guy, and he has been putting out some incredible travel vlogs lately. So if you need a break from heavy paradoxes and just want to see some beautiful sights, definitely go check out his channel.
Yes, highly recommend Mickey to Life for some fantastic travel content. He really knows how to capture a vibe.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, for having your coffee or your drink with us today. Keep questioning the logic and keep looking for those missing screws.
And if you enjoyed our chat, please remember to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your audio. Leave us a rating, leave us a review. It really, really helps us out.
Stay curious, everyone. And remember, when the car is on the mountain, make sure your tires are fully treaded.
We'll see you next time.